So in this last and final talk, I'll be talking a bit about graphics with you. Uh, so again, let me explain for us the motivation behind this talk. So this is not going to teach you about all the secret ninja skills in order to be an expert in graphics. I rather view it as more like how to find all these patterns and building a beautiful and fluid user interface, covering stuff like QPainter, graphics view, and typical widget tricks. And this is not about OpenGL, OpenVG, or all these great technologies like all these hidden gems and details, or about Qt Wake and Scene Graph, which will be at least, according to my opinion, will be one of the major graphics breakthrough in Qt. So this is not about all this specific technology, but it's about finding inspiration, patterns, ideas, and that kind of thing. So if this is too difficult to understand, how from this pasta, tomatoes, and fresh ingredients you can create a candlelit dinner. That's basically the goal. It's to give you inspirations, to give an idea on how to get all these things together and cook it and then become something. So don't expect to be a Michelin grade chef right after this talk, but hopefully you will learn a few tricks from it. So for more about performance, I would love to refer you further to Gunnar's talk on Gunnar's blog post on graphics. You can see the link. I think he has done a few talks as well at Dev Days. It's in the Qt Learning archive. Feel free to browse around and watch the talks. It's very informative, it's very useful, and too bad if you just miss it. So again, when people ask, hey, how do you make your apps fast? Well, the question is kind of, yeah, okay, you want to make your app fast. The obvious answer is don't do any slow operation, right? I mean, it's just so obvious. And the mistake that people do is to assume that, hey, this is my problem, so I'm going to optimize it. So never assume. You have to just measure it. You have tons of tools at your disposal: FileGrind, Sharp, VTool, any other statistical tools, sampling tools. They're very useful to give you an idea of what the problem is. So just don't assume this is the problem and then fix that problem. So this talk is going to be different because again, I'm mostly going to show you some demos here. So, and since I don't have much time, probably I'll show in 5 seconds. So actually you can listen. Transformation is one of the most underrated features of QPainter, or all the 2D painting stack in Qt. So with transformation, if you have an image, you can scale it, rotate it, prospectively transform. And one of the applications of this is create flipping clock. Who has ever seen this demo?
Has never seen it.
It can run on your Symbian phone. So we need to wait 30 seconds because it flips during the minute change. So let me say that Sencha is hiring. If you're a great C++ developer, passionate about graphics, wants to work on web technologies, yeah, feel free to contact me. We have a lot of openings, and if you're just passionate about a lot of things, then give it a try. So what it will do is flipping the digits, just like your.
Yeah.
So all it does is just doing some perspective transformation on the upper part of the digits and the bottom parts. As you can see, I had some gradient effect to make it look not flat. And yeah, it should remind you of some of your grandma's clock. How many of you check the screenshot of an app before you actually download or install it? Everyone, right? Unless it's command line, but sometimes people put command line screenshots. So it's just obvious. You have to present a screenshot, but using this kind of approach, well, we could improve a little bit, right? I mean, what if you put it like this? So this tool is actually called Screeny. I know a lot of KDE projects use this tool, and now every screenshot looks the same because they just use the default rotation, reflection, whatsoever. So if you
Not me. No, just joking.
So it's a matter of opening the tool, and then you can drag and drop something, and then you can really modify it. Change the rotation, change the distance, drag and drop more image and so on. And then you can really create much more attractive screenshots in 5 seconds. Again, this is an application of transformation and a bit of reflection there, because it's just a matter of putting some perspective on it. The reflection is actually a transformation. As you can see, it's just mirror it vertically and put some fade out effect. But it's also interesting to have this in like cover flow. If you have an iPhone, iTunes, or any products from that food company, you might be already familiar. That's a cute version that I created ages ago before I joined Trolltech. So picture flow is a clone of cover flow. This is one of the most painful projects I've done, just because with the same code, the same source code, it compiles for Qt 4, Qt 3, and guess what? Qt 2. So that's the first reason, is because some of the Motorola phones that run Qtopia, which is based on like prehistoric version of Qt. Yeah, so this is just a normal thing. Should we put this more? Again, this is an application of transformation with a little bit of animation. Again, reflection is just mirror around the vertical axis. Right now, it's very easy to create this in QML. You don't need to write any code at all. But this was like back in 2010. Or you can implement some sort of ray casting. This also runs on your legacy phones. Who is here young enough to never play Wolfenstein 3D? Not the new one.
To
the old
never?
one.
Like the old one?
Yes.
Or like before?
Everyone is, basically everyone is old. So I'm sure this will bring back the fresh memory. Don't worry, I kill all the enemies here. Again, this is a simple application of perspective transformation. Pretty easy and not so difficult. If you're not impressed with that, I suggest checking Samuel's project, which is called WolfenQt, where it's again similar Wolfenstein type of maze, but then you can play video, you can browse the internet if you want, and play some games. It has fancy shading effect and so on.
It even has sound effects.
Yeah, it has sound effect. So that's about transformation. Again, as I mentioned before, it's very easy to create something more attractive by just playing with all this matrix. Usually the problem is because matrix is scary. So people think, I don't want to remember that bad time during high school or college and learn the matrix. But Qt makes it really easy, so you don't really need to find all the values for all those matrices. Pixel manipulation helps a little bit in improving your apps. So if you have QImage, by the way, anyone here knows the difference between QImage and QPixMap? Yes, it's tricky. So QPixMap is really Windows system dependent. If you want to have hardware independent, platform system independent way of manipulating pixels, then you have to use QImage. So QImage store all the pixels like this. This is a blow up version of is it Qt Designer or Animate? I'm not sure which this is. Correct. Assistant. So you have two functions to set a pixel value and then get a pixel value. That's basically all you need. This is usually very slow because you need to perform a lot of computation. The best way is to just get the pointer to the first pixel bits, and then if you want to jump to certain rows, then you can use scanline function given the row number. So QImage runs the pixels like a zigzag movement, so from top left, go to right, go to bottom, and so on. However, Qt has this fantastic sharing feature, so if you pass one QImage instance, you won't duplicate the image, it will duplicate only, or it will detach it only when it's necessary. But then you have to be careful, because suddenly if you just use bits function that is not a const, then it will see, oh, this doesn't guarantee not to modify that one image, so I need to detach and make a copy. So I fixed actually a lot of cases in Qt, and some of the examples where it's just used raw functions and implies some detachment. Pixel shifting is something fun. It's difficult to explain, really. Anyone here play Quake 1? So let me just increase the. So if you jump into the water, it puts your view in some sort of pixel shifting way. So if I enable this, this is disabled, this is enabled. If you can't distinguish between two of this, then you should really see someone and fix your drinking habit. Knut, do you see the difference?
Yeah. Well, I don't drink, but I'm totally drunk when I'm looking at it.
So yeah, basically what it does is shifting shifting vertically and horizontally in a more sinusoidal way, and then it gives the impression that hey, you're not really in the air, but you're underwater. Underwater has also double meaning because I mentioned some drinking habits.
Yes.
Blur is a nice effect. If you can see this beautiful colorful pie, and if you see the reflection, I put some blur there. There's a magnified version on the left side, and it really gives the impression that hey, maybe this pie sits on top of some ice block or something like that. Gives some more realism. So people that use QImage usually stumble upon this problem a lot. So what's different between the multiplied and the non-multiplied version? So basically the pre-multiplied, all the RGB values are multiplied by the alpha values, and alpha scales from 0 to 255. So this half translucent blue color there is actually having different RGB values. So make sure you use the right one, because otherwise you're manipulating the wrong values. Like you assume that R is actually the actual values, whereas it's already multiplied by the alpha. So why there's a pre-multiplied is because it's important for alpha blending. So the formula for alpha blending is like this, and in the case if it's not pre-multiplied, you have to do 2 multiplication. But if it's pre-multiplied, then the R stands for red value. There it's already pre-multiplied. It's actually multiplied by the alpha. So whenever it needs to do alpha blending, then we need only to perform 1 multiplication per color channel. If you do a lot of pixel manipulation, if you manipulate like vertically, then you have to consider that because the way QMS stores the image, this 2 pixels actually has a very great distance, because it has to go that way, zigzag, until it reach this one. So if you try to access all the pixels vertically, maybe it helps to rotate the pixels a bit, so it runs like this, rotate the image, and then the distance between this would be very short. And then when you're done, you actually rotate it back again. So if you see the raycasting demo, all the texture, actually I store it in a file in a rotated way, because then I don't need to re-rotate. Colors is important, so if you do pixel manipulation, 32-bit, suddenly your bit screen is 16-bit, then you have to deal with color conversion. Or if you do 16-bit, sometimes 32-bit operation is easier because it's 4 bytes, it's unsigned integer, sometimes faster. So you have to judge whether, hey, 16-bit convert to 32-bit, do some manipulation, go back to 16, and then display the screen. So you have to be careful. Yeah, Nokia N900 is one of the few devices that use 16-bit colors. So special effects. Special effects is very similar to all of these Hollywood movies. So you have to be careful when you use it, because otherwise sometimes the entire movie is just about effects. There's no character, there's no story, there's nothing. So you know it's true, right? So that's why the best advice I got is if you're in doubt, then just remember Uncle Ben. So if you have the power to create all special effects, then you have to remember that with the powers comes great responsibility. So just because you can apply all this sparkling effect and then destroys your user experience, you can just suddenly go ahead and do it. So when in doubt, remember Uncle Ben. So grayscale seems to be a very useless effect, but actually very useful, especially if you combine with composition mode, because suddenly you can colorize some stuff. So composition mode denotes the way the pixel is generated if you have a source and destination. There's a complex mathematical formula that no one can remember. But I'll refer you to the QPainter documentation about that. So if you have grayscale image and then like draw a color rectangle on top of that with proper composition mode, then what you get is the color as effect. Again, this is easier said than easier demonstrated than explained. So this is the grayscale, and if I apply some color with screen composition mode, this is what I got. I can play with different colors. And then there are different composition modes. Screen will create something brighter. Multiply is actually very dark, and overlay is kind of in between. So depending on your use case, you want to pick one or another. Talking about color, there is not only one color space, RGB, that usually people talk about. There's also HSL, HSV. So I like HSL because the maximum and minimum values denotes full light and lack of light. So it's like white and black. But sometimes HSV is also useful because the maximum value refers to pure white, or pure color, and then if you go down, it's really black. So depending on your use case. So I can talk about colors for hours, but I don't have hours. So bloom effect is another application of composition mode. Again, we play with different composition mode and blur effect, and then we have some dreams because this is actually in Bremen. So if I disable, it looks like normal pictures, but if I enable it, then you can see that it feels like in some Inception movies. You can play with different ways to improve your dream updates. Again, combination of proper composition modes and blur effect. Night mode is actually very simple because all you have to do is invert the color. This is requiring exactly 3 lines of code. And if you have a GPS navigation system, you know that sometimes it switches to different color inversion if it's at night. So yeah, this is Google Maps inverted. Literally, it's just a cube view. And I can use F3 to invert them. So sometimes it's useful if you have a bad projector because then you can just invert it and see things. Shadow blur. Shadow blur refers to the blur effect applies to the shadow. It's kind of different because usually shadow has one color, typically black. So it's possible if you know graphics a lot, then you know that it's very easy to optimize the case for shadow blur because this is basically the shadow only, and I can play with different blur ranges. Change the color. So because you only need to blur one channel, there's certain tricks that can be applied there. It's actually written in the SVG specification. So again, if applied properly, shadow blur can have a dramatic effect. It's also very slow, so again, use your responsibility. Genie effect. Anyone that use Mac OS X knows this. Or the new Queen composition, because you can just delete something by making it more physical. Like iPhone users nowadays. That's actually a cookies. I don't know if you know the hidden Easter egg there.
You guys done with me? Good to go?
It has KDE letters. So Genie is similar to the pixel shifting. It's a matter of applying geometrical transformation to whatever image source you have. Morphing. This is actually one of my favorites. I implemented this when I was in Brazil. So this is a digital clock, and say I want to have analog clock. Usually you right click, select analog. How boring it is. If I click, it moves out. Go back. Again, I can click this for hours. So the trick is all basic operation on QPainter is based on path. So you have path that describes those rectangles, circles. there are several. There's the minute hand, the hour hand, and then all those two different colors circles, and then I just morphing it slowly to each and every digit. So all these digits, they're also path. Actually, once on this fantastic little device in 900. Feel free if you want to see me running it. Yes.
Quick question. Some of these projects from the labs, do they have working SVN paths right now for some of these?
It's in Git.
Oh, it's in Git now?
qt.gitorials.org/graphics-dojo.
Okay.
Every project that I demo here, they're out there, open source. So a bit of physics. Physics helps to give some realism to your apps. The notorious example is usually easing curve. So nothing in our life moves linearly. So if you slide something, it's really like this curve. So it's nice. So this example shows how to slide in, slide out a panel, but not using a linear move. I don't think this is too interesting, so I'll skip this demo, but feel free to try in that given URL. I really like this one. It's parallax sliding. So Android user usually knows this. Again, if you can't see the difference, then fix your printing habit. So this is normal mode where I slide left and right. You have to notice the icons in the background. Right? If I move to the parallax mode, then basically what happens is like this. Anyone spot the difference?
Yes.
What is that?
Icons moves faster.
Perspective?
Right. So in normal mode, you can see that the background and the icons, they move the same speed, the same distance. So when I put in parallax, it actually moves. There's the difference. So you have the feeling that the background is there very far, as opposed to just stick on your phones. Magnifying glasses is a simple zooming effect. So this is the KD cookies. So if I need to zoom, all I have to do is drag and hold and drag the mouse, and then I can see all these tasty cookies. Now you know the Easter egg. It's KD. Again, that's simple physics, but and it's easily implemented, but it gives some sort of realism. Kinetic scrolling. Back when I demoed this a long time ago, not everyone can appreciate the importance because iPhone was just out. So instead of using scroll bar, you actually move kinetically. Some people call this flickless, some people call momentum scrolling, kinetic scrolling, whatever. Popularized by our friends at Apple. And you can even apply this in the web browser. Usually it's more important or more real when you try it on a touch device. Because you don't want to drag and move those tiny little scroll bar on your phone. Physics engine. So this is again, I've shown you the demo running on Google Chrome, but actually it's a port of native apps. So I use the Chipmunk physics engine for this, and if I click here, then it just creates another board. So it's very easy to integrate third-party physics engine because you just need to try them out. Sort of the balls and the movement, and then you plot it in your apps. But it's also runs here, so you can use it. It runs on N900. It's a bit slow because physics engines usually require a lot of computation. And the funny thing is, let's see if this works. You think I'm cheating? No. Try it again. So this is one of my ideas of having distributed scene graph, but this is some sort of prototype. Who wants to do it?
Oh man.
Well, that's the illusion. Obviously, I can do it anywhere, right? If I can put it here, then yeah, but well, just put it. But that's combining a little bit of physics and being known that yeah, these two computers actually this is zero comp, so they use simple UDP to know each other and then start transferring all the balls. So that's physics in a different way. Physics in a sense where two devices they know each other and they kind of communicate. It's fun to play with this for hours.
Can you do that in HTML5?
Yes. So HTML5 has this concept of WebSockets, which means you can transfer and receive packages. So that's kind of a very primitive network stack. You don't need a sophisticated network stack for this because all I transfer is only the position, the speed, and the colors. Right? And you get this illusion of smooth interactions. And all this standard optimization where if you start looking into physics and then you check all the collision detection, sometimes it's cheaper to just use the bounding box as opposed to try to find out the intersection of path. So widgets and application, since version 4.5, Qt has this concept of pluggable graphic system. You can pass an extra argument and then specify which graphic system you want to use. Usually it's native. If you don't specify it, which means it's automatically decided at runtime, or you can specify raster, use software rasterizer, X11, default on X, Linux, OpenGL, and so on. So you may want to try two different graphic systems and see which one performs better. It really varies from apps to apps. And there are a bunch of widget attributes that you can use if you know, or if you want to shoot yourself in the foot, because using this kind of dangerous. These three are not really dangerous, but this one is like really horrible. So use it only when you really need it. Again, remember Antoine. So some of the bugs that I fix in Qt WebKit is about anti-aliasing by accident. So you have this style, and then you want to put it on a web page. And sometimes you can see this one is rather blurry because apparently we scale it using anti-aliasing. Thumbnail preview. Every gallery apps usually use thumbnail preview because it's impossible to just browse 2,000 photos at once. So one of the tricks that independently I invented and used, I think by Gwenview or GGCam, I can't remember, is to have faster way of downscaling. So instead of directly use smooth scaling to the target thumbnail size, you actually do a very fast one and smooth. So Qt has concept of smooth and fast. Smooth is the result is beautiful, it's ridiculously slow. Fast is fast, but it's ridiculously ugly. So this one is kind of in between. You can see all the details about the optimization in that blog post. So if you compare fast versus smooth, this is standard Qt. You can see that this is a checkerboard pattern and then downscale. You can see all of so the pixels are either black or white, whereas if you use smooth, then you have some sort of filtering there. But if you use this kind of approach, which I call cheap transform, because it's not really smooth, but it's smooth enough, and you get this result. So it's hard, unless you are that guy from Smallville, it's hard to find out the difference between this. So yeah, sometimes you just need to be creative and find a way to cheat. So hopefully I showed that patterns to build beautiful and fast applications. These are some of the topics that I mentioned. I really like to put forward like physics because I believe in the futures. For example, if you lay out widgets, why do you need to lay out widgets, right? Should be decided by physics. You put all these things together vertically, and then yeah, it stacks itself. You remove a widget, then it should drop down. So it feels like something physics. And it doesn't need to be real physics because it will be confusing. Like the widget, the button drops down and then breaks itself into a million parts, then it's the kind of abuse of special effects. But there are certain things that designer and developers, they don't need to think about it. That's all. Thank you so much. I guess everyone is dead tired. Any questions?
I think it's just soaking in. I'll probably have a question sometime around midnight or something.
Around midnight, yeah. Just send me email, or this day, send me a Twitter message. And for all more tricks, you can refer to my blog post. And don't forget, if you're passionate about C++, graphics, WebKit, whatever technologies, then come to us and choose hiring. Thank you.